If you want to share your thoughts, your feelings, your comments with us this evening, you're welcome to do so. You can log onto our into our Newsbreak Facebook page. You can even send us a tweet, and we'd be happy to share your sentiments here on air. Now, joining me on the line is clinical psychologist Dr. Sherona Rawat. A very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Genevieve.
Before we begin our discussions this evening, just your thoughts, firstly, when you heard the news, and how has this impacted on you and your day?
Absolutely very, very sad news. As they said, a legend has passed on. His legacy will live on forever. And I think, it's situations like this that makes you step back a little bit, take some time out from your life, and actually just look at things and appreciate what we have, for the sake of certain people who've worked hard and helped bring those things into our lives. So I think it's also an opportunity for all of us to just feel that appreciation for where we're at, and just remember everything that he's done and try and learn from that and learn lessons that we can actually, continue to live through for the rest of our lives.
Now, as a nation, we are in mourning. Is there a right way of being able to mourn together as a nation, or a wrong way? How do people begin expressing themselves during this time?
I think firstly it's important to note that with bereavement, the process would be the same, whether it's an individual that you've lost in your own home or it's a public figure, such as Mandela. Basically, people will go through periods of shock and denial and that kind of thing. But with this situation, we've been, hearing of illness and sickness for quite some time now. So there has been an anticipation of this day coming forward. And this too in itself, I think there's been grace in that the nation has had an opportunity to prepare for this, to actually, pull together and to kind of get themselves in a place where they'd actually be able to move forward positively in relation to this news. So I believe that, the time that we've all spent talking and hearing about Nelson Mandela, sharing with his family in relation to the trauma they've been through in the last months with him being so ill, has actually helped us as well anticipate his passing on and helped us prepare ourselves as well for this event.
Now, lots of people say that even though they were preparing and they knew in a way that this was going to happen, this was inevitable, they still somehow feel a sense of intense loss. Could it be that, or should people rather who are feeling the burden of this grief upon them, should they be looking to counselors, perhaps family members, begin to talk about this more?
I think, it's still very new. Even though we were anticipating it, it's still quite new. It's still a shock. So there still would be a little bit of that shock, a little bit of denial here and there, until it starts sinking in. I don't think it's necessary at this time to seek out professional assistance unless somebody has really had a really catastrophic response to this situation. I think it's over time as you move on. The process should actually play out on its own. People should talk to each other. They should remember. They should try and make contributions in that kind, in the sense of, maybe sending cards to the families, or kind of, giving in charity in Madiba's name, that kind of thing, where you feel like you're actively doing something. Because grief kind of resolves a lot faster and a lot better when you actually feel you're actively doing something and you have a little bit of control over it. When you feel like it's out of control and there's nothing you can do, I think that is when it's much more disempowering.
Dr. Rawat, in terms of the sense of reconciliation that perhaps that Nelson Mandela had strove so hard to see flourish within South Africa, do you think that his passing will help to cement that in terms of the psyche of South Africans?
Absolutely. Initially I was a little bit, I would say, scared, as to what might happen and how would people react and respond. But, once this actually happened and the news broke, my own response in itself was one of remembering and thinking that, I want to actually fulfill a lot of his philosophies and a lot of his ideas and a lot of his ways of interacting and behaving. I want to actually, kind of better this country and work towards a better country and bring in more of his principles, because I wonder sometimes if some of his principles actually have kind of just become a bit dormant here and there. And I would think, we all working together and bringing it back. So I feel in a sense this might be an injection of new energy where people pull together in their grief and their mourning to actually do something to pull his ideas together and make it maybe into more of a workable, practical kind of for program in a sense, where people can actually start following those principles, which I think will bring a better South Africa in the end.
Now, in terms of building on that feeling of reconciliation and remembrance, what would be vital for our current leaders, for community leaders, even religious leaders to do in order to be able to aid this process?
Basically, I would say that they would need to continue doing the things that they have been doing, being supportive, being open, being available for individuals that may need to talk, using opportunities to pull together, using these opportunities to actually bond people together, to reconcile individuals, to show that the principles and policies that Mandela had brought about and the initial things that he spoke about in his early speeches and things like that, which is a lot of what we're seeing on the television at the moment and hearing on the radio, actually is refreshing our memory and is bringing all these things back again. So I would say just putting those principles into action and actually helping individuals kind of inculcate it into their living. I think that's something South Africa actually needs at the moment. And, in the true spirit of Mandela, even in his passing on, it seems like his energy will be rejuvenated and help revitalize the country again.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add? Perhaps something more of a watch list or a checklist that people could use during this time to gauge how they're dealing with this particular grief?
I think basically you've got to just take your time, relax, stay calm. Kind of watch yourself. If you're feeling grief, feel the grief, speak to somebody, share what you're feeling and work through it. The moment you swallow it, hide it, and kind of deny it is when it becomes a problem. So it's active at the moment. Take the time that you need to work with it and try and process it. It takes time to process grief. Much research shows up to 2 years in effect. So it's not a short, quick kind of a process. It's a process that takes its time. It's also a process that kind of repeats itself. So you may go through the shock and denial, and then you go through acceptance, say, okay, and I'm moving on. Then you may start feeling depressed and sad again, and then again wonder, is this real? So it's a process that goes back and forth until you progress out of it. So give yourself time. Should you feel that you're getting a bit stuck, you're starting to isolate yourself, you're overwhelmed, your sadness is becoming more of a depression where you can't shake it, you can't enjoy things, that's when you need to actually seek assistance in relation to this.
Clinical psychologist Sherona Rawat, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Jenna.